Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Krisha Romani. I'm an 11th grade student at Novi High School, and I'm a co-founder of Vote 16 Michigan. Joining us today are Luka Todorovich and Andrew Kim, both of whom are 11th grade students. Luka attends Rochester High School and serves on the Vote 16 Michigan board with me, and Andy is the president of Novi High School's Politics Club. We're also super excited to have Senator Jeff Irwin and Representative Yousef Rabhi here with us today, who are both Democrats from Ann Arbor. Just so you all know, we will save some time for questions at the end. But with that said, let's get into what we're here for. So Vote 16 Michigan is a youth-led project to promote student voice in politics, specifically in those elections that affect 16 and 17-year-olds directly, so our school board elections. And together, the team at Vote 16 Michigan brought our proposal to legislators who had worked on voting age issues in the past. And we worked with them and our advisors to introduce it as a bill and a joint resolution in both the House and Senate. Today, we're announcing 4 pieces of legislation: Senate Joint Resolution L, Senate Bill 886, House Bill 5857, and House Joint Resolution P. While the House bill focuses on educating young people about local politics, the Senate bill focuses specifically on voting. And they both work together to give young people who are educated, engaged, and active the ability to have their voices heard. But with that, I'd like to pass things on to Luka Todorovich.
Thank you so much, Krisha. As Krisha mentioned, I attend Rochester High School, and I am also serving on the Vote 16 board. And I joined Vote 16 because I'm passionate about being able to participate in our democracy. And over the course of US history, we've expanded voting rights to even larger portions of the general population, making our government more democratic and better representative of the people. This legislation, if adopted, would enable communities to lower the voting age to 16 in school board elections if their communities decided to opt in. 16 to 17-year-olds have a lot at stake in school board decisions, and because these elections directly affect their day-to-day lives and our day-to-day lives, we deserve to be able to have a real say in them. Many people who are over 18 tend to overlook school board races because they're not as high profile as presidential races. People my age have firsthand experience in how our schools are run, and because of this deserve to have a say in the ballot box. Some young people feel like voting isn't really worth it. However, getting young people in the habit of voting early on for a local office, such as a school board where they can meet the candidates directly, will set more of us on a path to be more active and engaged voters throughout our lives. This will also give older people and older voters the chance to see young voters taking on the responsibility of democracy and to see how including young voters makes school board elections more relevant. We hope this will lead to broader support for lowering the voting age to 16. Senator Irwin is here to explain a bit about how our joint resolution works, and with that, I'll pass it on to him.
Thank you, Luka. I'm State Senator Jeff Irwin, and I'm honored to be here supporting these students and working with them as they work for voting rights. Access to the right to vote is essential, and it's a fundamental right that is enshrined not just in our Constitution, but also in the UN Declaration for Human Rights. The right to self-determination is fundamentally important. And so that's why I'm introducing this legislation. And the joint resolution we are introducing would, if passed by a supermajority of legislators, place a question on the ballot for Michigan voters to decide. And so if the legislature were to put that on the ballot, voters would decide whether to amend our Constitution to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in school board elections when and if their local district opts in. Changing the voting age in federal elections would require changing the US Constitution. So obviously we can't do that in the state legislature, but I would point out that we did do that in 1971 when we changed the voting age to 18. And I think upon reflection, almost all Americans would agree that that change has been good for our country. Just like then, expanding the voting age would increase participation and it would get people more involved in their community at an earlier age. A habit that we certainly want people to be getting in. So I would also add just the younger people are the ones who are going to be most affected by the decisions made today, and their perspective is valuable to our democracy. When we're working on issues like climate change that aren't just relevant to the next fiscal year, but are relevant to the next 50 years, it's important that we have those voices at the table when we're making those decisions. And the same is true around the table with our school boards. They're making decisions that are going to affect that community for years and years and years. And these are the people who we hope are going to stay in Michigan and live in those communities and contribute to those communities for years and years to come. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andy Kim to talk about the other half of our proposal.
Thanks, Senator. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Kim. I'm a junior at Novi High School. Novi High School's Politics Club's president, and over the past 2 years, become increasingly active in my local government, volunteering for Democratic and Republican candidates alike. And over the past summer, was given the opportunity to intern for Senator Jim Runestad. Really, the main goal of this bill is to get students more politically educated and engaged by ensuring that in-depth education on the political process is taught in K through 12 schools. So we essentially devised a thorough yet simple to understand learning program that introduces students to political participation as they progress through the school system. So by grades 3, 8, and 11, students would be able to learn about the process of becoming a political candidate, contacting officials, voting, and various election processes. And as someone who's had firsthand experience talking to both voters and student peers alike, it's become clear, and I think we can all agree, that knowledge about the political process is becoming increasingly crucial in this day and age. I can tell you firsthand that it would have been much, much easier to connect to my local government if my school helped to facilitate that. Really, the issue at hand is that many teachers are already covering some of this material, but social studies instruction varies widely across school districts. So adding it to the curriculum standards would help set a minimum common base of knowledge for every student in Michigan. Ultimately, this bill would make politics more accessible for students and would help empower us to use our voices in the elections that matter so that we're listened to, not just heard. And with that, I'll pass it on to Representative Rabhi for more information about the education part of this bill.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And as you all can hear, these are some of the shining examples of young people who, frankly, should be allowed to vote. And you can hear from their voices, from their passion, from how well-spoken they are, that their engagement in the political process and their desire to participate is no less than those who are over the age of 18. And in fact, as we've seen across our country, the engagement of high schoolers in the political process has shown us that our country is better off when those that are 16 and 17 years old are allowed to participate in the process as well. This is an opportunity for us as a state to lead on this issue and to make sure that more voices instead of less are being heard in our political process. When in my first term, I introduced a bill to allow for 16 to be the voting age for all state elections. What we're proposing here is a little bit different and making sure that we're focusing on our school boards in the state of Michigan. We've created an opt-in scenario, as Senator Irwin said, in the constitutional amendments that have been introduced in the House and the Senate. But the bill that I'm here to talk about the most today is the bill about civics education. House Bill 5857 is a bill to ensure that in our schools, our students in high school are being taught about how government functions. And as we've seen, not just in this past election, but in election cycles before that as well, making sure that our electorate and that our citizens are knowledgeable in how the voting process works is very important. Not just how to vote, but also how to run for office. When I first ran, I was 21 years old, ran for the County Board of Commissioners, and I actually won that election by one single vote. Young people can and should run for office, and the sooner they know how, the better. We can create a more functional, more transparent, and more engaging democracy if we pass bills like House Bill 5857 and like the Senate bill that Senator Irwin introduced. Again, these bills are about civics education and preparing our young people for a future in civic engagement. Schools should not just be about training the next generation of workers, but should be about training the next generation of civic leaders as well. That's why I'm proud to introduce this bill, proud to join with all of our hosts today and with Senator Irwin to support this legislation. Thank you so much for being on this call. And now I'm going to turn it over to Krisha for handling the Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So if anyone in the Zoom right now has any questions, just go ahead and raise your hand. Yes, Representative Rabhi.
Yeah, I was just hoping maybe you guys could talk a little bit more about your organization and your membership, how you guys got engaged in this. I think your story is actually really fascinating, which is part of why I'm so excited that we've been able to work together. And frankly, for those that are watching, this is an example of how government should work. We were approached by active, engaged citizens about the idea that more people should have the right to vote. And I think that's really cool. So do you want to talk more about your organization?
Yeah, so we started right in the middle of COVID, at the time that our school board was making decisions for us on mask mandates and whether or not we would go virtual or asynchronous. And it really didn't feel like they were taking our voice really into account as much as they should have. And we were just a little bit ticked off at that. So we decided that the best way to be heard and the best way for our voices to be listened to was to really have that voice in elections. So that's how Vote 16 started. And over time, we went to events with different representatives. And I actually met Representative Rabhi at an event with former state representative Chris Gregg. And we were able to really just model that political process of constituents coming to our elected officials. So I thought it was really a great idea I thought it was great that you were just open to hearing us and listening to us and meeting with us. So I'm just grateful that that was available. But with that, seeing as there aren't any questions or anything in the live stream, we are ready to wrap up tonight. So if you do have follow-up questions or interview requests, please direct them through Rep. Robbie's office at 517-373-2577 or yousefrabi@house.mi.gov. And with that, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you.